Hi everybody, all my followers, be welcome to another video. Now, I hate to do this stuff on Sundays, I really do, but today I kind of felt stuck and I really had to do it. So, I'm not going to do a lot today, but I will explain you exactly what the problem is with this car, how far I got, etc, etc. So, the car in question is a 2003 Volkswagen Golf with the 1.4 petrol. I believe the engine code on this is the BCA. Not really sure if it's going to be imported, but nevertheless, it's a BCA engine. So let me explain you first what's the problem with this car, and then you will later on I will explain you why I'm doing this on a Sunday. But yeah, so the problem with this car is the following, or the complaint is the following, is that the speedometer, that one in there, doesn't work. So when I first got the car, the guy parked the car on the outside, and when I was moving the car to the inside, I've actually seen the speedo working. So I drove to the end of the road, came back, and the speedo works. Just before I say anything else, actually, just to let you know, this cluster is the original cluster that came with the car. It was completely dismantled. Someone has been here and broke the tabs. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. The tabs where the screws goes underneath, you can't really see it, can you? See if I can show you. So where the screws goes, you can see in there, that's smashed in there, is broken, and the other side is actually completely gone. If I show you there, oh, I can't show you this one. Anyway, it's completely gone, as you can see in there. Look at that. The front fascia of this cluster was detached, so the cluster splits in two. Right there, so it splits in two. They are similar. I'll explain you what that cluster is. But anyway, the fascia comes completely detached. So when I was trying to pull the cluster, these front sort of perspex came out. The rest stayed behind. The needles were completely messed up. The car was revving at about 1500 RPMs. Well, was not revving at 1500 RPMs. The idling was fine, but the needle would show about 1500 RPMs. So the needles have been out. Someone put them back in the wrong place. So yeah, it was a little bit of a mess. So I took this cluster out, and I rang the owner. I said, look, everything's working. What exactly the problem is then? And he goes, well, it does work, but intermittently, the needle, whatever speed you are doing, intermittently, the needle drops down to 0 and then goes back up again. And then comes to 0 and goes back up. He says it's quite random. You might need to drive for a little bit longer. So I'm taking his word for it. I didn't drive the car. But what I've done then was, and he said to me, but I left you a spare cluster. You just need to replace the cluster. Just replace the cluster for me. The problem is, so I've started doing that job. And halfway through I stopped. Because I don't think the problem is on the cluster, but I will show you. I will explain you. So what I've done first was I've started to so I put that cluster in there, and the first thing I've done using VAG Taco was change the mileage. That one, the original mileage is 81,874. I think I got that one to about 81,300, close enough, so that was okay. Then when I pulled both clusters out, so remember at this point the cluster was still only in bits. When I pulled both out to actually change the immobilizer, so the keys, then the car would start, etc, etc. What I've noticed is they are completely different clusters. So these, even though the visually, I mean, at the front they look identical, that's actually a VDO. And that's a Bosch, a Motronic, I think, B00 or RX, I can't remember, RB something, whatever. Anyway, they are different clusters. But while that one was all in bits, I've checked the stepper motors at the back, the soldering points, where they are soldered to the PCB. It looked okay. I've resoldered that. And then I've resoldered the plugs on the PCB themselves. So there's two plugs at the back of these clusters. Again, the connections at the back are the same. So as you can see in there, there's a blue and I even found the pin code for this cluster. Anyway, so I've resoldered these plugs on the PCB, and not on this cluster, obviously on the original cluster, and I put the cluster back on. This was all yesterday, and that's pretty much where I've stopped. So last thing I've done was grab the in this case was the VCS, and I've actuated that needle several times. The needle goes up and down. There's no pauses as the needle moves. The needle moves really smooth all the way, comes back, then the cluster put it to about 60 miles and stays there, and everything works okay. So I don't think my problem is going to be the cluster. I think my problem is going to be something else. Now, the reason why I'm recording this today is because I need to take a part number out of something in order to try to get the bits for when I finish my night shift. So I'm working tonight and tomorrow night, which means if I won't do nothing to this car, I won't be able to touch it until Tuesday afternoon. Then if I need the parts, that means order them on Tuesday. They would be shipped on Wednesday. Then I'm back on days, and then the car would stay here until the week after the next. And I'm just trying to get this sorted ASAP. Anyway, so at this point, guys, I went to diagrams because I want to understand how the speed sensor works on this, or how the speedo, where the speedo, where the cluster takes the speed from. Is not from CAN. Some cars are, and later models they are. This particular car does not take the speed from the CAN network. It takes the speed from a sensor on the gearbox. As soon as I went and checked diagrams, I've seen straight away how it works. It's a 3-wire speed sensor on the gearbox with a ground, a power, and a signal that comes straight to the cluster. So what I want to do is, I would love to go for a drive, guys, and show you. Actually, I can show you here. I haven't started the car today, but I can show you here, just back and forwards, that the cluster, that the speedo is working. Let me just start this thing. So let me just drive a little bit. So I wanted to look at the speedo, and you're going to see that the speedo is working absolutely fine. More, that's fine. Now go forward. Oh, it didn't work this time. That's strange. That's really strange. It was working yesterday, so it's not working now. So this is actually going to be good to turn on the laptop and VCDS and give you a quick needle actuation. It's going to do that now. This is actually interesting because it was definitely working yesterday. Okay, so it is actually good that this happened, because this way you've just seen that the cluster doesn't work, and that way I can actually show you. Output test, I can actually show you that works okay here. So there we go, it's activating that one. Let me go on to the next. So the next is the temperature, then the fuel, and now the speedo. There we go. Okay, so the speedo is working fine. There we go. It's working good. Okay, so there we go. So there's nothing wrong with the speedo. My only problem is, let me finish this thingy. Okay, so I'm a believer that the problem is the signal coming from the speed sensor, and that's what we're going to look at. So I'm going to pull that sensor out so I can take the part number, because I believe there is different sensors with different pulses. You can always code the cluster for the different sensor, I guess, or number of pulses, but if you can get exactly the same, you don't need to touch any coding. It's just literally a straight swap. So yeah, so that's what we're gonna do. Let me just try once more. It's definitely not working now. Yeah, it's not working now. Okay, let's gonna get to that sensor, inspect things around there, and pull it out, I guess. Okay, so the sensor we're talking about. So one of the things I don't like to see straight away is this. I hope he hasn't gone through the wires. But the sensor, this cable here, this loom comes to these sensors here. I believe that's the reverse. This is a plug that then goes to somewhere underneath, and the speed sensor is right here. It's this one here, and leaves right there at the back. And that's the one I want to pull out. But first, I'm gonna want to pull these out of here. And there's two separate looms. Okay, so this is alright. But this is the other one anyway. So that's the one. It goes to my sensor. See if there's anything visual in there. Right. Now does this sensor comes out? Okay. Oh. Okay. Wires look good. Just double check. Wires look good. There is a little bit of exposed wires there, but they are not, they look alright, so I need to pull these out somehow. Okay, so I need to pull that out, pull this plate out, and I'll bite, see if the wires, there they are. Okay. And the colors match my diagram, blue and white, so that's good. Okay, let's gonna pull that plug out and try to pull the sensor out. Okay, and the plug is out. Now, let me see if I can get too small. Get this to pull out. Looks like the bolt needs to come out. Now the bracket should come off, I think. Oh no, the wall sensor comes out now. Another look here. There we go. There is the sensor. So let's do something here now. You guys can imagine what I'm going to do. Just hold a second. Battery is running out. Damn it. Okay, let's gonna snap a new battery. Whoa. And as you can see, we still have no speed. And we uh-oh, I think the drill just moved. Hold on. Okay, and just put it all back on, and now it's working. Right, I've wiggled the wires a little bit underneath. Will that be the issue? Will that be the issue? I've touched these wires underneath here. Will that be the problem? Or is the sensor? It's a tricky one, isn't it? Now, let me see if it still reads. And now it's not reading. Do we have a wiring issue? Okay, it might be that there's nothing wrong. It might be a wiring problem. Let's gonna get to those wires and see if we see anything there. Well, I was thinking this would be a sensor problem. Might be that is not. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, and with the help of my little Hannah, it looks like every time I pull these wires that way, it stops reading. Every time I pull them this way, it starts reading. So I don't think at this point is a sensor problem. So it looks like it's a wire problem. So I'm gonna have to take the battery and get right underneath where the wires goes, see if we find anything there. But before that, I think I'm gonna pull the cluster out and do a continuity test, either from voltage to the sensor ground, then the signal inside, or just check the wires quickly. Probably the wires quickly, why not? Actually I'll do a different test first. Hold on a second. The first thing I'm going to check is the ground, which is pin what? Which is pin, doesn't say the pin, just says minus on the plug over there. I'm gonna guess it's pin either 1 or 3. Pin 3. It's gonna check the ground. So my test light obviously is from voltage to the ground on here. Can you see the plug? Yes. So let's gonna move this, see if we lose the ground. Nope, not at all. So let's gonna check now voltage, and voltage is not here. Here's my voltage. I have no voltage here right now. Hold on a second. Make sure Hannah didn't turn off the ignition. No, she didn't, and I have no voltage here at all. But wiggling the wire right now, it doesn't make it come back. Really. I should have voltage here. I should have voltage here on this pin. That's the signal, that's the voltage. That's really strange. Hold on a second. Unless I've wiggled it too much and now it's completely gone. Let me do something here. Okay, and Hannah's been helping me. And it looks like the voltage, whatever I did wiggling it, looks like the voltage is completely gone from here now. So I can't get the sensor even to come back on, and it confirms the needle is now moving and the voltage is completely gone. So I'm going to just double check which fuse this is fed from and start to make some measurements. It looks like this is a power supply issue and not a sensor, as I was nearly inclining to think that would be my problem. So it looks like it's going to be a power supply issue. Okay, and this car had a lot of stuff fitted. I don't know what they do, but it doesn't really matter. My fuse is this one here, fuse 7. Okay, I removed the fuse. I can confirm I have voltage there. Okay, and I confirm the fuse is in good conditions. I already tested it, so this is not the problem. So the problem is going to be a wire indeed somewhere, which we're going to have to trace. I believe it's going to be somewhere underneath the battery now, because it was after I started wiggling around there that completely failed. So we're going to strip that area there and see what we can find. Okay, so according to my diagrams, the voltage to that sensor is also shared with the oil level sensor. I believe if it was an issue with the oil level sensor, like shorted or something like that, and pulled the voltage down, I guess we'd have blown the fuse, I guess, maybe. But let's gonna do a few checks first. So according to the diagrams as well, that the wire for this sensor comes through a plug on the engine bay, which I assumed was this one because it's the one that makes sense. So it comes, this one comes here on this main big loom, and then goes onto a plug, and it comes into the loom that goes to the sensor. And when we, so I have the multimeter set to set to continuity, and on the plug that comes from, that one is that one, we do have, where was that, there is, you have 0.3 ohms, so that's connected to the fuse that we have just measured. And as you can see, we have continuity. So now I'm going to check from this side to the plug. Okay, I'm now back probing the other side of the plug, the same pin as we've seen. The same pin? Did I do it right? Yes, I did. Where's my plug? Is here. So my voltage, and I have nothing. And I don't have nothing here. How come? What the heck? Right, let me show you these guys. Oh dear me. Let me show you this. Look, I have 3 wires here. I have 2 wires there. Oh dear me. Okay, so let me just, oh my god, let me just pull that insulation out. Forget about this, we don't need to carry on measuring anything, just need to pull these out. And we found our issue. There is my issue. Why did I waste my time with that cluster? Why do I keep trusting diagnostics made by other people? Why do I do this to myself? So this wire is broken, so basically my wiggling just made it to completely fail. Okay, I can see the wire there. We're gonna have to strip all this, but I can see the rest of the wire right there. I don't know if you are able to see it. Let me see if I can zoom in. There it is. Can you see in there? So now it's time to strip these out and repair the wire, and should be problem fixed. Nothing wrong with cluster. Again, don't have a clue who diagnosed the cluster as being the problem. Why he brought me the cluster, I don't know. I just need to, I should have learned the lesson by now and not trust anyone else's diagnostics and just start from scratch every time I get a car, because a lot of the times these guys is what I get, is this sort of diagnostics that someone else says is one thing, and then sometimes I believe them. Oh dear. But I've just started at the start of this the video. It's Sunday today. I'm not going to do anything else, so all I'm going to do now is the repairs, how to repair the wires. I'm going to leave a link in the description below of this video. You can see how I do it, Repair the wire is not going to be rocket science. We're just going to get repaired, then we'll do a test drive, make sure it's working okay. But that's it. So it's going to get it repaired, and a few days later, there we have, all done. And the only thing left before I plug that in is just make sure we do have the voltage now in there that we didn't have at the start. And once that's done, we are going to move that one out of the way and take this one for the test drive. Okay, ignition is on. Loads of warning lights. I think we're gonna have to calibrate the steering angle and all that good stuff. So let's gonna look for a 12 volts. I'm not sure which one is now, but look at that, 12 volts. There we go. That's what we're looking for. So now let's going to plug this back in. Well, a little bit awkward. It's right there. There we go. No, not yet. Huh? Did I got it right? No. Come on. Ah, there we go. There we go. All in place. Right. I think I haven't missed anything, and everything is good to go. So let's gonna test this thing, and yeah, that's it. Okay, as I said, ABS light is on. I'm just warming up the car. Still need to put this back in place, but we're gonna give it a very quick scan and clear all the codes before we go, to make sure everything is good. Interesting that the ESP light is not on. It might be that it turns on the ABS instead. That's strange. Okay, and good to see that all the faults that VCDS found, they are all intermittent, so there's nothing. So let's gonna turn this off to now erase the codes to clear everything. No. Oh, clear all DTCs, but yeah. Okay, so let's gonna let it to do the rescan again, but looks good. As again, all the codes were intermittent, so we shouldn't come back with anything again. So there we go, engine no faults, etc. So let it finish. It's looking good so far, and it couldn't be any different. The car is absolutely fault free. So let's gonna go for a test drive. Okay, all ready to go. The Beamer is already there, ready to look at a misfiring, that some parts have been thrown at it already. Not sure what has been thrown at it. Anyway, let's gonna go for a quick test drive with this. And but I could see here, just maneuvering the car, that it is working, as you can see. But because it was intermittently, although I think, guys, at this point no one doubts that that was my issue, but we're gonna go for a quick drive at the end of the road and come back just to make sure. Okay, and as you can see, beautifully, absolutely beautiful. Okay, let's drive until whatever for a good 5 minutes or so, just to make sure. Okay, and as you can see, guys, it's driving absolutely perfect. Just drove around the corner, but it's driving absolutely fine. I got it up to about 60 miles per hour, driving fine. And yeah, that's really it. In the end, nothing wrong with the cluster. It was just a broken wire. So with no further ado, guys, just one quick thing before I wrap up, actually. I don't want to, when I said I should stop, actually I'm going to stop here because I'm going to talk a little bit, guys, sorry about that. When I said about I need to stop trusting other people's diagnostics, etc, I don't want to sound pretentious, I think that's how you pronounce it. I don't want to look pretentious or coming across as, I don't know, as, I'm not going to say selfish, but as if I know it all or anything like that. That's not the case. But as you might have seen from some of my videos in the past, most, if not nearly every time I've trusted someone else's diagnostics, I got caught. I got done for it. I go in a route that I shouldn't go because someone didn't test things properly or hasn't done things right. So I think what I was trying to say there, guys, is just do your own checks so you can start to build a picture in your head of what the problem is, rather than try to go by what someone else told you. Unless you guys are really talking the same language and someone that you might trust. I don't know, guys, to be honest, my experience over the years is that I just can't trust. Every time I get a car, I need to go and do my own checks, etc, etc. This again was a primary example. Someone was thinking the problem was the cluster, and as you have seen, guys, there's nothing wrong with the cluster. It was something completely different. So yeah, I just like to clarify that. I don't want to sound, you know, again, I think the word is pretentious, but yeah. So, and now, guys, yes, with no further ado, this is done and dusted. A long video for a broken wire, I guess. So, but yeah, with no further ado, guys, hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you have learned something. If you do have any questions, any comments, you know how it works, put it below, and like always, thank you for watching.